Welcome to Build every Thursday. Jim Black, Ed Stroud, Mike Novak, and myself get to share whatever we feel like professionally, personally, reaching for mastery in every single level. So we're now calling it living a challenge-based lifestyle, which I'm a big fan of. It's like, what's the next challenge? What's the next thing in every area, in any area? And how can we be better people, better wives, husbands, parents, grandparents in some cases, and better people in general? So today, the big focus is doing a little bit of the real Rise takeaways. We didn't have Build last week because a lot of us were at Rise, experiencing Real's annual conference, which was just phenomenal. Huge shout out to the entire Real HQ and Real Events team. They curate such incredible content, and they're so good about bringing in quality people. And I think there were several of us that were a little bit surprised and taken aback with some of the content, especially from the main stage on day two. I wasn't expected. There was, especially Donna Pondy came in and spoke on energy and awareness and mindfulness and consciousness. And you're like, wait, this was everything I didn't even know that I needed. It was incredible. So I want to start, when Sharon first opened the entire session on Tuesday, he gave us kind of four big points for ROI. And I'm going to start kind of recycling these through because I just think these were so incredible. And I've taken them to heart. These are the first notes that I wrote for the entire week. Number one is be where your feet are. And for me, that's way easier said than done. Our lives are so busy and it's so easy to be constantly distracted with something else here or there or wherever. And so I've taken that home with my kids. I've taken that to my team when I'm in meetings. I've taken that when I'm on the phone with a colleague or a teammate or somebody. Just really trying to be incredibly present in the moment and being where my feet are in that moment. As Donna Pondy shared, your energy is transferred, right? Your energy is transferred. And so when you're able to be where your feet are, whether it's 1 minute or 2 minutes or an hour, that transfer of energy can be significantly more impactful for all parties involved than trying to spend a distracted 30 minutes together. So be where your feet are is number one. The other one I really liked, and I'm going to share for sure, is instead of the one idea we're taking away, what we're doing here is we are flipping the one idea script and we are sharing an idea with somebody who was not there. So that was kind of the point. So if there's anybody else on the call who was there or who tuned into the virtual, I'm definitely going to want some input here for sure. But yeah, that's where we're going to start today. We're going to be where our feet are, and we're going to share a couple of things. So, you have anything from day one, Jim, that you want to kind of kick off?
Um, I don't remember where I wrote this down, but it just like there was a quote that somebody said, whereas life is a manifestation of where we invest our energy. And it just like it hit home really hard to me. It's just like we get to choose what our life looks like based on where we invest that energy and the life that we grow, the business we grow. It ties right into you talking about having your head right where your feet are. And I was reading, what was the book I was just reading? How to keep stop worrying and start living, Carnegie book. And just like all of that, like if we take care of our mindset, like a lot of the other stuff just becomes a little bit easier. So that was what hit me the hardest. I was looking at my notes over here, was that quote. I don't even remember who said it or where it was. I just remember I wrote
Yeah,
it
that
down.
was Donna Ponty for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was paying attention a little bit.
His talk by far was my favorite takeaway for sure. So we'll definitely talk about that. I want to talk a little bit about like listings, right? And building authority in this market. And I don't I don't know if it was said from stage or if it was said in a breakout, but somebody said, if you're not in their inbox in November, your sign won't be in their yard in March. And I use that, our team talked about that in the sales meeting this week as well, just about how there are going to be a lot of people right now that feel really frustrated. I know there's a lot of people in my team who have pretty big pipelines. They have a lot of people that they've been talking to, and it's really difficult to get people off the ledge right now, right off the fence into making a decision. And I want to encourage everybody, of course, we're going to train on objection handlers. We're going to train on like how to get people to move, right? But at the end of the day, we cannot force people into major life decisions. And so what we can do, what we can control this time of year is communication and value, and continuing to have open communication, continuing to nurture and continuing to check in on people, making sure that we see them not just as a transaction, but as the human being that they are. And I think that that level of connection and rapport right now, continuing to stay in their inbox, so to speak, in their text inbox as well, that is what's going to lead to a bustling market in the spring. Whether or not we like it, the reality is a lot of people wait to the spring to do things because it's more convenient, right? Especially if it's not an absolute have to. So knowing that, there were a couple of sharers that both Sharon and Jimmy Mackin, if you followed him, he's kind of on the Tom Ferry roadmap tour. So I'd heard a couple of his things before. But how to generate some activity, right? Sharon loves to say, conversion happens in conversation. So the more conversations we can continue to provoke and promote within our database, within our sphere, within our networks, the more conversion opportunities we're going to have. So I'm going to share one kind of a stellar tactic. I actually just used it in my personal stories, but if any of you have moved your Instagram or your Facebook to like a professional dashboard, as somebody who uses it a lot for connection with both agents in our market, agents nationwide, and with buyers and sellers, it gives you some incredible insights. And one of the most interesting insights that I found is that 70% of the content that is consumed from my account is in my stories. 70%. And so knowing that 70% of the content I put out is through the stories, that is where I'm going to generate the most amount of conversion and conversations. And so putting things in there that will provoke responses has proved pretty wildly successful. And I do it about all sorts of things. This morning, of course, I put in there, I've voted, have you? And my options were sure, shit, I have. And the other one was no, not yet, but I haven't. And I already got like 27 responses on that, right? Just a simple little boom. And so one that Jimmy Mackin recommended that we use that I put in, and I'll reserve any sort of judgment until I actually see what the feedback is on it. But he shared putting in your story a simple little poll that says, if I could sell my home for blank next spring, I would sell. And having the little question box be blank and be the one that people write in the number that they'd sell for. On a test that he did, I think it generated like 12 or 13 responses, which doesn't seem like a lot, but guys, that's 12 or 13 conversations that have just been opened. And maybe some of those were agents, so we got to knock that down to like 6 or 7. But that's kind of one way to start some conversations. So what other ways are we able to start conversations to generate some potential conversions right now?
So I had a couple other little takeaways that I wrote down as notes. They talked about that, like creating like a home concierge program, and really just, I mean, this was like kind of, it seemed like almost AI generated, but you reaching out to someone and just saying, hey, enrolling someone in a home concierge program. And, part of that is of your home concierge program is we'll give you a free market analysis of your home, just about 5-minute walkthrough. Would you prefer nights or weekends? So instead of saying, hey, do you want a CMA on your home? Say, this is a service we're providing to you that you get because you worked with us. When do you want to do it? And I thought that flipped the script on it for me a little bit. Because he also Sharon talked about also like setting appointments for people. So like if
Yes.
somebody was, hey, it's that time of the year, a lot of times we forget to clean our gutters. And, if you haven't cleaned your gutters yet this year, like, why don't I go ahead and set up an appointment for John Smith to come over and clean your gutters? And doing that helps John Smith, that helps your client. You've built this relationship and they're going to do business with you. So those were a couple of them. There was one other that I got, which I thought was really good, is your sphere does not know what you do. So I might be a great agent, but I look like every other agent out there. So I did this with the radio talent that we used to work with, is I went to their house and actually did a CMA, like did a listing presentation. Me and Kim went there and just basically offer, say, hey, just so you have a clear picture on what it is we do, come by your house and just spend about 15 minutes taking you through the exact presentation we do for our clients. And this would be great for somebody who's like, maybe it's your accountant. And then, figure out how we can, work together as well. So providing value and showing them what you do, because what you do hopefully is better than what everybody else does. It should be. And then you can they'll see that, and then they will more easily refer business to you because they see that, hey, they do it different. When I bought my house, it wasn't like this.
Yeah. So to your point, Jim, I love that as well. And his examples were anybody in business that may refer you business, right? So CPA was, of course, an example. Maybe it's a local business owner, a chiropractor, or maybe it's a jujitsu academy, maybe it's a plumber, or maybe it's just like somebody that you know in the industry or in any industry, but who owns a business and has contact with a lot of people, right? If you're friends with them or acquaintances with them in any way, they know you're an agent. But to Jim's point, they probably think like, oh, well, like Jim's a great guy, but he's an agent, but I know there's a lot of agents. Whereas if you take the time to say, hey, so-and-so, like, I've always appreciated our professional relationship. I really would love to, build a deeper connection and be able to refer people to you and you refer people to me. Could I take 20 minutes of your time, drop by your house and show you exactly what I do that's a little bit different as a real estate agent in this market, so that when people ask you, you have a couple of 1 or 2, 3 points as to why I'm a little bit different. And that's going to help them refer you at a higher level. So that was a really good point, Jim. I like that. Love it. Anybody on the virtual takeaways? Oh,
I was on the virtual. I think for a lot of it, it was difficult for me to like, honestly, I don't know that I would want to get the virtual ticket again, if I'm honest. I need to give them that feedback. But one of the ones that I really did like was Tamir's talk about peace at the end, because I think I mean, first of all, oh my gosh, but also I think that that's something that we can internalize in our businesses as well. Like you can choose how you approach any situation when you're building your pipeline, when you're talking with buyers or other agents, or your community. Like if you approach it with a particular mindset of peace and giving and everything like that, like good things return. So that really resonated with me. And then of course, anytime Sharon talks is you just sit still and listen. So I also really like the Be Where Your Feet Are, Rachel. I remember that from Rise last year. And it's true. Like we get so busy trying to multitask that it's really easy to forget while we're sitting down to do what we're doing. So that one is incredibly powerful as well. I didn't get to any of the breakouts, of course, because it was digital only. So I'm happy to hear some nuggets from there.
I'm having technical difficulties, so my laptop froze, and I am here. But I heard the rest of yours, Jen, about the Tamir's talk with peace, and the Be Where Your Feet Are, of course, was really, really good stuff. So yeah, and I'll provide some feedback. I got to be chosen for the advisory board, so I'll be able to give some open feedback to some of the operations teams in regards to some of that execution.
Are you on the
Yeah.
advisory board because you are the fittest female?
So funny. Yeah. I know. I posted that as like, it was supposed to be like a little joke. Hence the caption was like, I don't even know how many push-ups I did. Ha ha ha, And then it kind of went a little, people were like, oh my God, congratulations. I'm like, guys, the trophy is this tall. And it was kind of a joke, but anyway. So yes, I'll be the fittest female. Real, that's fine. No, I think Sharon actually told us, he's like, hey, Rach, like you'd be a great fit for the leadership advisory board. He's like, I don't really get to vote, but I told Jenna to bring you onto it. So I was super, super honored to be chosen for that. I'm very, very excited to be able to bring some value to the brokerage, as well as some feedback, right? And accomplish some things and get some things across the finish line this year. So, but saying that all to say, Ed, I haven't heard from you yet. What kind of takeaways? What was poignant for you? What was something that you wanted to share with others?
Well, here's the thing here's probably my biggest takeaway, and it's not going to be the things that you guys are talking about, but everybody kept talking about individually all over what a culture we have, and we never want to lose this.
Mhm.
And I heard it's not like we were in a group talking about it. I heard it from different people throughout different times throughout the whole event. And I think the thing that I took away is people really love our culture. And as I had those conversations, I've said it 100 times. We are the ones that have to protect that culture. We're the ones that have to help make sure that if we double again in size, that we are the ones holding that culture accountable. So it's just pretty cool, though. I think people don't realize what the culture can look like. And then you come over to real and you start feeling it and hearing it and seeing it and touching it. It's a big deal. So that was my biggest takeaway, to be real honest.
So to your point, what do you think that we need to do? Because this is super applicable to, not just real, not just a brokerage, but like to teams and to, smaller agents who are trying to build a team. Like how do you define culture and how do you maintain a culture that feels this way?
For us, as far as from a team standpoint, I always tell people I'm not the one that sets the culture. I set the guidelines as far as what I believe, or my leadership team does, what I believe our values are and what we're going to try to uphold. It's each and every one of the agents and the leadership team that is the culture. They're the ones that's going to hold it. So when I have people come back to me and say, "Gosh, did you know so and so was saying this?" and my first question isn't like, "Oh, did they?" but it's more of, "And what did you say?
Yeah.
How did
Yes.
you counteract that? Because I can't do this for 35 people on the team. I have to have everybody needs to protect our culture." And I would say that at the highest level of real, well, then what did you say? What are you saying? What are you talking about with that person? Because somebody's got to the president, so Sharon. And I think you need to set those values here, and then you got to protect it. And you need people that agree with you that will help protect it as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I got most of what you said there. You were going a little robot-y on this for a minute, but yes, we got it. And Chuck just said in the thread, and I totally agree, Chuck. It's like he said, I think we're doing this on both team and the real fronts by being ready to share what works and doesn't, and not being pretentious, leading by example and not a scarcity mindset. And I was going to add to that because those are all spot on. I was going to add to that, a way to keep culture and maintain it is everybody's responsibility. To Ed's point, it's peer-to-peer accountability, right? It's not going and telling mommy and daddy on people, or going to Sharon or Tamir and running and trying to solve, get people in trouble. It's like you hold those people accountable in real time, right? Peer-to-peer accountability. If somebody's acting out of culture, you call them on it.
Sitting there and watching the whole leadership team up there, I think you said, how do we do this? And I think it starts at the top is like, what are they modeling? And what I saw that was different than I see at some other places is just a bunch of humble leaders that were not trying to talk above people. They're trying to talk on a level. Doesn't feel like there's somebody up on stage. There's some friends sitting in front of you. And I think as we go down to each of our teams and wherever we are, like, we have to be like in there with our team. We can't be up on this pedestal, which you'll see in many brokerages, you'll see it in teams. We're just another person that maybe knows some different stuff than they know. And we're a resource to them. And I think Sharon is a great example. Like, he's this incredible resource, but at no point do I feel like he thinks I'm less than him.
Yeah. Yeah, maintaining an approachability as a leader, I think, is really important. That's something that I actually had several people say that to me. I think that there are some people that enjoy spotlights and they end up turning people off because they become unapproachable, right? Whereas that's really the difference with the leadership team and with, you know, a lot of the leaders within the real organization and our organizations is we're still just people. Like we're still approachable, right? We are open to criticism, we are open to feedback, we ask for it, we want it. So I think that definitely is a game changer.
I think the other thing that I noticed was we talked a lot about like there was a lot of doing stuff rather than talking about stuff that I was feeling there. Like when they talked about, hey, we're gonna attack this or this, is to do it. And I think that's the same thing as team leads. We need to do the same thing, and just as agents, like do stuff rather than talk about doing stuff.
Yeah, love that for sure.
Yeah,
Unshare. Go
I was
ahead,
going to tell you, Rachel, I've been, and everybody, I've been that person. I am an excited high D person that wants to talk about the things that we're going to do. And sometimes they take longer than what you expect them to. And one of the things that our leadership team talked about during our retreat for this was the fact that we should talk about it a little bit inside the leadership. But the cool thing about Real is when they start talking about it and telling you, it's already done.
yeah.
And we want to be more like that. Geez, but on our team, yeah, we've got these new things. And hey, what if we had this? And what if we had that? Well, guess what? We do.
Yeah.
And here it is. It's such a better way of doing things by far.
Yeah. And what a good point, because we can easily translate that into like an agent world, right? A single agent world or a team world where, you know, if we go and we're talking about the potential things that we're going to do in our business, or we're talking to our clients about the potential things that we could do, but we haven't executed them, we're not really walking our walk, right? I think to your point, if we start executing, if we start doing the things, taking action on the things, then we have a track record. And now we're able to do the kind of proof over promise, right? Say like, look what I have done, look how this works. I was chatting with I had a quick admin team meeting here before this mastermind, because this is like the super intentional time of year in our business where we get to readjust all of the efficiencies and a lot of the SOPs, while it's a little bit slower, right? In business, a little bit quieter, just a little bit. And it's a great opportunity to do exactly what you said, Ed, is okay, what have we done? What have we wanted to implement? What efficiencies have we wanted to implement into the listing process? What efficiencies do we need to implement in the communication between the closing team and the runner? Like where are some of these efficiencies that we can build in and not just have them be theory or on the fly in the springtime? And so quick reminder, that's maybe a little off topic, but it just reminded me of it because as we get into this time of year, I think a lot of people start taking their foot off the gas. And I never agree with taking your foot off the gas, but if you're going to pivot activities a little bit, pivot them into a way that it's going to set you up for more success 2 months from now, right? Everybody's kind of thinking like, oh, like look, it's slow. And to Jimmy Mack or somebody's point on listings, it's like, well, you know, it's Halloween this week, so not much is happening, and then you know, Thanksgiving's in 3 weeks, so not much will happen that week, and then and it's like you'll work 6 of the next 8 or 9 weeks, maybe. And to that point, like, why don't we intentionally instead take some of the time to assess all of the things that we have been doing, look at all of the processes, where can we add efficiencies in, and start implementing, taking action on those things right now, so that by January, when we're not just ready, but we have a foundation laid for absolute success in Q1. A little off topic, but to my point. So a couple of statistics I wanted to share with everybody on the call. In regards to clients, right? Where our clients are coming from. A couple of statistics that Sharon shared. So he loves to say that our best clients come from our best clients, right? I don't know how many of us on here call their clients to ask for referrals. Does anybody do that on here? A lot of you are. Okay, so Ed does. Okay. I don't like to do that. It's awkward. I don't like calling to ask for referrals. However, I will continue to provide value to my people in order to make sure I'm top of mind so that I would be the first place they would go or first person that they would refer. So he talked about, let's see, in the next or this year so far, there's been 1.1 million buyers transacted, 1.78 million sellers have transacted, 84% of those sellers bought a home within 7 miles of where they already were. So 84% of people are moving within the same market. That's actually a higher statistic than I thought. That's great. Here's a couple of other ones. 65% of sellers found their agent through a referral. So 2/3 of people who are selling their house found the agent off of a referral from somebody else. If that doesn't motivate you to call every single one of your past clients and touch base with them and bring them some value in Q4, I don't know what else will. That's a lot. That's a big statistic. 71% of buyers interviewed only one agent. 71% of people will just go with the one agent that they interview. And by interview, I really mean sitting down to do a buyer consultation, right? Especially in this market. 43% of buyers, on the other hand, found the agent through referral. So significantly more sellers will go with an agent referred to them by somebody else than buyers will. So for us, for our team, that tells us that our focus really is the people that we've put into homes, right? The future sellers. How can we continue to build that referral machine? So he also said that 90% of clients said that they liked their agent and would work with them again or refer them. But listen to this, 13% actually do. We are not doing a very good job of following up with our people or keeping in touch with them. 13%. And then, of course, Sharon's reminder that you don't get referrals just for doing your job. Like, our job is to write a good contract. Our job is to win them the right house. Our job is to make sure that the problems are smoothed over throughout the process. Our job is to make sure that they get, it closed on a reasonable timeline and into the home and all the keys and all the things. That's our job. What are we doing above and beyond? So, Jim, this is where I'd like to re-enter the concierge conversation. That was going to be kind of my lead into that. So when you've got people that you put into homes, what is your follow-up system like? How are we generating more sellers? If 65% of sellers found their agent through a referral, then we need to start focusing on the people we've already transacted with in our sphere, bringing them value so that we can get more referrals. So Jim, you want to touch on that concierge program again and explain a little bit what Sharon meant by that, what it was?
I believe the way I understood it was essentially like you sign up for, you close on a house with us and then they get a message, I'm, Susie Smith, the concierge for, am I frozen or is that just Ed and Rachel? Okay. And basically what's happening is the biggest thing is you're setting appointments for them to do things. You're following up with them on a regular basis. It was like an AI thing they were doing, wasn't it, Rachel?
Yeah. Yep. So they're creating kind of a concierge program essentially that you can utilize for all of your past clients to touch base with them on basic house stuff. So to your point before, to your, what you said before was, hey, I've got this vendor. It's time to do gutter cleaning. He's going around. Do you want me to set you an appointment? You could do that for pressure washing in the spring. You could do that for window washing in the summer. You could do, you could do a furnace touch up. I mean, there's so many things that you could do in coordination with people from your vendor list to both bring them business and to bring your past clients value. And so putting it into an action plan, like creating it into an action plan within your system would be a great start. They're trying to, of course, like you said, Jim, build out kind of an AI where the system is doing it for you. But it was a great opportunity for us, I thought, to be like, how could we, like in Q1 every year around this time, we have this text template that we've already communicated with our vendor, we're sending out to our clients. How could we say, hey, so-and-so is open as the next 2 weeks that he's kind of securing appointments for my clients. Would you like your windows cleaned? Would you like your gutters cleaned? Would you like your decks pressure washed, whatever that looks like. So a great way to bring value and promote some local business.
Well, and I think the other thing it ties to too is like a lot of us do client events and we have vendors that are part of those client events and that contribute to it as well. There's a value proposition to those people where you're basically set. So everybody's winning here.
Yes.
You're setting appointments for these clients. You're making your client, their lives easier. you're also providing value to these vendors that you do a ton of business with, and you're helping them, and you're making sure that your client actually has somebody that's good at the job, doing the job, rather than, when they, how many times did people tell you, oh yeah, I gave your name to Susie Smith, and she should be calling you, and Susie never calls you, but she has a really bad experience with another agent who sucks.
Right.
If you can, so I brought that to a networking group I was part of, and I was like, hey, like, what, guys, this is a great way to do this. I thought it was like genius to be like,
Yeah.
I'll just set an appointment. Like, hey, you need you said you need landscaping service or something like that. Okay, well, John does landscaping. I'll go ahead and set an appointment with you to have John come over and meet with you.
Mm-hmm. Loved it. For
It
sure.
doesn't even have to be the AI. You can manually do that, because Rachel said it, like, this is the time of the year where a lot of times we're not meeting with as many people.
Mm-hmm.
Great time to be super proactive and build our business for next year and provide
Mhm.
value to those clients.
Yeah, I mean, I think taking the time, whatever CRM you use, like taking the time to build out a quarterly text touch point, right? And creating an action plan that prompts you for a task, and you've already written the template to go in and send a template to 25 people a day for a week or whatever that looks like. Just saying, hey, I've got a couple of local vendors. They're looking to make appointments for 1, gutter cleaning, 2, pressure washing, 3, furnace servicing, 4, whatever. Type back the number of one you'd like an appointment for. Like that, as simple as that. Then they text back something. Now you can go to your vendor, help set the appointment. It takes maybe 5 minutes tops. You provided value to the client. You provided business to the local business, and you are the one bringing everybody together. I think that is at like the deepest point of all of this in real estate, is that we're not just the transaction managers, the professional problem solvers, but we have to stay the connectors, right? Anytime somebody, whether that's a past client or a sphere or a local business owner or anybody, reaches out to me asking for a referral for something, hey, Rachel, do you know a good X? Hey, Rachel, do you know somebody who does this? I go on a mission to find them the perfect person for that, right? Like I always want to be the person that people come to connect them to whoever they need, real estate related or not.
It almost, like, I was even thinking just about just referrals too. If we're, we want to be the person that people reach out to, no matter where they're looking to buy or sell a home, and we're going to connect them. And it's just the same thing. Just like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set an appointment with Rachel. I know you're looking to sell your home in Washington. Let me go ahead and set that appointment with Rachel. So like, we're almost ISA in the appointments too. So
Yeah.
sure that connection, it's not just like a two-way text, it's a actual appointment set.
Yeah. Love it. Chuck, I totally mimicked what you had already typed in here. Being the go-to person for past clients or whoever. I love it for sure. Guys, Nicole has a question. As someone who's in a new market, not new to real estate, but in a new market, how do you go about finding good quality vendors?
Unfortunately for me, a lot of times it's trial and error with my own personal stuff. Is I'm using them I try to use people personally before I refer them out to anybody. So I can get I can easily personally refer them. But you can, just like people do with us, start going and looking them up and find reviews and see what is there, or also finding other people in your market that have done business with them, people that are other, like if you're in a market, now you've met a lender that you trust and you do business with, well, like, who do they have? And just start expanding on each of their networks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to be honest with you, Nicole, one thing that I did when we got back into real estate, because Mike and I moved to our area about 13 or 14 years ago. And so we were also kind of new to the area, but like we had needed to build our vendor list essentially. And I literally went on and I created a sheet of all of the different types of vendors that my clients might need, from handyman, electricians, plumbers, carpet people, like all of the above. And I literally just started Google searching my area. And I would, pull up like the very top rated. I'd go in and read reviews. And that's how I started. So I would start recommending people. And I always told my clients, just CYA for all of us. If you're quoting anything, you need to get two minimum, but at least 3 preferably quotes on anything. So get bids on every single thing from 3 different people. And then you kind of, I don't want to say you pass off the burden, but it's a way to kind of stay detached and say, hey, these are the 3 that I highly recommend. Get quotes from each of them and then choose the one that you feel most comfortable with. Because what happens if you just give them one option and it's not proven and then they mess it up, now that's a bad reflection on you. Right. So really, really important that you're able to provide them some value with a couple of bids, but at the end of the day, the client is able to kind of choose that if you don't know that yet.
And the other thing you can do is just go out on social and say, hey, who's your who for HVAC systems? Who's the person that you're going to get 1 million people telling you who they use and why. And now you've got a bunch of reviews on people that now you can say, well, 5-10 people talked about ABC HVAC. I'm going to call them and say, hey, we're looking for a good HVAC person. That's the way you start getting that if you're brand new to the area, for sure.
Yes. Love it. Jen, do you have any takeaways or thank you on that one?
I would say, if I didn't have the team and I had to build a vendor list, I probably would also do like the Yelp thing, and then ask my neighbors if they've used anybody. And then whenever discussing it with the client, I would always say, instead of like, I personally have experience, I would always kind of use that language that says more like, you know, my neighbors, my own neighbors have had a lot of success with this person. Or if you have a couple of clients and maybe they did get roof work done or something, you negotiated something, you could say, I've had a client that had a great experience with this. That way, I mean, you're being accurate, you're being truthful, but you're CYA that you're not saying like, you're personally warranting that they're awesome, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is to say, you know, I'm very careful about who I recommend. So please give me your feedback after you get this service done, because if they don't treat you perfectly, I want to completely take them off my list. They'll be blacklisted. Like I take that very personally to make sure that when I'm referring somebody, you know, it's for a good reason and it's fueled by things that you have to say when you're done using them. So I think it's just a matter of like, trying to talk to people. Like if you're, if you've got neighbors and you're brand new, if you have any family within the area at all, maybe that you don't, or, you know, your kids, friends, parents, as you start to kind of talk to people and build your own personal network, which would eventually become your, sphere, you can also like ask them for those recommendations. People love giving recommendations and love helping in that way, love being connectors generally. So you can start out that way and then always do that CYA with the way you pass that recommendation off.
Yeah. Pro tip, if you're keeping it alive, like a living vendor list, this is one thing we learned the hard way and have pivoted since, of course. So we have ours in like a sheet, a Google sheet, kind of like an Excel spreadsheet, and each tab is the different type of vendor, right? So the industry. So within each of those pages, in those tabs, we have the vendors listed. And anytime somebody has a terrible experience and we want to blacklist them, we don't remove them from the sheet. We strike it out with a date and why we're striking them out. Because what we did was just deleted them off of it. And then 2 years later, when we're looking up somebody because nobody is available and they pull that one up, we don't have any memory of why we don't use that company anymore because we didn't even know. So strike it out, write a note. And then anytime that there's a good experience, make sure you put a date and write out what the good experience was as well, so that you've got a living, active way to refer people. So it takes a little bit of discipline in the moment, but over years of using people, huge tool and resource for your clients that you can provide a ton of value for in many, many areas of homeownership. So my pro tips.
When I say blacklist, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
We have a blacklist.
Blacklist.
There's a particular plumber on mine that I will rave against on any auction, opportunity. So yes. And that makes people feel good too, that you're looking out for their best interests when you're vehement about that sort of thing and you
Yeah.
share like your processes.
Yep, for sure. Chuck, what did you say in your chat? I saw. Hey, man, plumber, blah, blah.
I just said that a lot of times in the CRM, there's people who have like an email address that says ex painter or whatever, or you're talking to them and they say, hey, I'm in the trades. Oh, what trade do you do? Oh, I'm a plumber. Oh, great. So like, are you commercial, residential? What kind of plumbing do you do? If you're interested, like we could probably add you to our vendor list. If you want that kind of work. So just asking those questions, I think that right now we have a painter on our vendor list because of that exact thing. So it's just kind of paying attention to all the areas. And I think about the, like, I don't know how many of you have got to eat with Mr. Mike Novak, but Mike, my wife says that Mike is really fun to eat with because he loves food. Like he is loud about loving his food, not obnoxiously loud. Like he just is like, oh, this is so good. Can you taste this? Blah, 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 blah. Well, when, so like having a person who's a foodie, write a review is one thing, but if you go to, Mike and Rachel just did sushi the other day for their free meal, and like putting, hey, this is our go-to sushi place now in Snohomish County, like that kind of thing, then everybody in your social media feed is going to be thinking about, oh, I wonder. Like I love it when people say, hey, where would you go to get a good hamburger? Like that has nothing to do with real estate, but they want to ask me the question. That's the people that we want to be. It doesn't matter what it is. Hey, I got a problem with my car. Great, let's talk about it. I had a countertop question this week. What should I do for this countertop thing? Those are the kinds of people that we want to be. The people that we are basically their Rolodex, since we don't have those anymore.
Yeah, figuratively speaking. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what you just said, Chuck.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think, at the end of this, like there's probably so many more takeaways that we could go over from the event, as there always are. But sounds like really like some big things that we can walk away with that were shared today included being where our feet are. I encourage every single person, like in every conversation, in any part of your day, be where your feet are. That is one of my favorite sayings that I use now. And creating clients for life. Like how do we continue to bring so much value? How do we bake into our quarters and utilize the slower times in our business to build up the next quarter, right? Like if business is a little bit slower, yes, you need to be continuing to prospect. Yes, you need to be continuing to have conversations. Yes, you need to be continuing to provoke conversation because that's where the conversion happens. But also taking the time to work on your business, not just in your business, is incredibly important this time of year. Q4 is the time to increase the efficiencies and processes. It is the time to create the templates and some of the action plans that can just go on autopilot in 2025. So highly, highly, highly encourage you guys to take a little bit of inspiration from this, create maybe an action plan or create some templates in your CRM that you can use to send out to your people, and then start working on your vendor relationships. Real quick, we do a couple of VIP events every single year, and we've just decided as a leadership team in our group that we're starting to invite some of our top vendors to those VIP client events. It's just a deeper way to build some rapport with the vendors who, like, typically it's only a business transaction, and now we actually get a little bit of proximity, which again will increase their top of mind for us, as well as connecting some of our clients with some of the vendors they may need in the future. So continue to be the connector in your world, continue to be the go-to person in your world, and watch your business grow every single year. All right. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Always a good time. Have a great week.
Great week.
Yeah.